it's Lauren, the New Hampshire Stitcher. I am back for my March wrap-up, which is Flosstube number 5. Kind of hard to believe I've been doing this for a few months now, but here we are. If you have been here before, welcome back. Thanks for coming back and watching. If you've never been here, welcome. This is a channel where I talk about cross-stitch, some knitting, and just some other things I like, just my life in general. And it's been about a month since my last Flosstube. I mentioned in my last video that I was going to be starting a new job in March, which I did. And so March has been really hectic. Learning the new job has just been a lot of information all day. I'm in meetings pretty much nonstop. And what that has meant in terms of crafting is that at the end of the day, I have been many days a little bit too tired to do more than put a few stitches into whatever I'm working on. So kind of a bummer, but I'll get back to it. Also in March, toward the end of March, so we got back a week ago, my husband and I babysat my nephews, my sister's kids, who are 2 and just about 7 months old, for 5 days. So that was definitely an adventure for us, and I did not really stitch a whole lot that week. I think those of you who have had kids or currently have little kids can understand that, and honestly I applaud everyone who is stitching and knitting and doing Flosstube while also taking care of children, because it's really hard. So yeah, that's sort of my life update, just working, stitching, babysitting, and I got a lot to talk about today. The first thing I'll say is that in my last video, I mentioned that I was going to be doing March Madness, and that was a failure for me. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw that I put up polls, like the first 3 matchups, I want to say, and then it just stopped. And that was because it was making me not want to stitch, like having to change projects every day, getting a new piece on the Q-snap, not having control over what I was stitching. It just wasn't working for me, and I found myself just not stitching because of it. So I decided to call it quits, and I just started stitching whatever I wanted for the rest of the month. However, it does mean that I have a lot of whips to talk about today, because I did get a little bit of progress on a bunch of different things before I stopped doing March Madness. And then I also have some FFOs, whole lot of whips, like I said, 2 starts, some things I purchased, plans, etc., etc. So I've got quite a bit to talk about today. The first thing that I will talk about is my FFOs, which there are 2. I mentioned last month that I was waiting for some frames in the mail. They came. I did some framing, and here is Pink Sparrow Sampler all framed up. I apologize if the lighting here is a little bit suboptimal, but it's a rainy day in New Hampshire, and this is the only time I can film, really. So this is the time that's available to me, and hopefully you'll still get a good sense of it. As I mentioned, this is Pink Sparrow Sampler by With a Needle and Thread. I stitched this on 40 count Vanilla Latte by Stitch Me with the called for threads, except the purple is called for Gentle Arts Grape Arbor, and I used Roxy Floss Co. Violet Woods. I just couldn't find Grape Arbor, so I swapped in a different purple. I did this framing myself, but leaves a little bit to be desired. The borders are just not quite as even as I would like, so I'm trying to decide if I want to just hang it for now, see if it bothers me, and then repin if needed, or if I'm just gonna crack it open and repin it. As I said, this is from Signed and Numbered on Etsy, and they do really nice frames with like a stamp on the back, so it looks the frame itself looks very professional when it's done. I can't speak for the pinning itself, but there's only one way to get better, and that's to try. So that's my first finish, or fully finished object. Then we have my second one, is Winter Rose Manor. Just looking at this one makes me really happy. This is a frame also from Signed and Numbered on Etsy. I'll put the link in the description. I think a number of other Flosstubers also get their frames there. So they do a really nice job with the frame sizing, like custom sizes for embroidered or cross-stitched pieces. But this is Winter Rose Manor by With Thy Needle and Thread, stitched on 40 count old stationery using the called for colors. The only color that I subbed out here was the white called for was Toasted Marshmallow. I didn't have any particular reason for subbing it out. I just had extra oatmeal by Gentle Arts, so that's what I used. And I love how it turned out. I'm so happy with this one. It is spring now, so probably gonna hang it anyway just because I like to look at it. Love it. Those are my 2 fully finished objects. And I did not finish anything in March, just with the general busyness around here and kind of going from one piece to another. It didn't happen. That's fine. Maybe April. The first whip that I will show this month is Thursa Priscilla Dawes by Hemlock and Rye. The designer of Hemlock and Rye is Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, and Thursa was part of March Madness. She did win her matchup, but I only ended up getting 1 day of stitching in on her because I got distracted, stopped doing March Madness, yada yada yada. I am stitching Thursa on 40 count Rain Washed by Color and Cotton. And here is where I've managed to get to. You can see that. In my 1 day of March Madness stitching, I finished filling in the bird. I brought down the border a little bit. I think I added some leaves in this little cup underneath the bird. And that is about it. The bird alone has, I don't know, 15 colors in it, something like that. So this pattern does have quite a bit of changing the color on your needle. And I would like to keep Thursa out probably for some part of April because I feel like there's days that I just want to do big blocks of color, and then there are days where I'm ready to do something like this. I think I already said stitching it on 40 count Rain Wash by Color and Cotton. These are the DMC. I'm doing the aged colorway. These are so fun. There's probably 30 or 35 colors here, so I had to re-pull the DMC from my stash. I had done some organization at the end of last year, and I put away every single thread for every single project that I wasn't actively working on. So part of the day of stitching Thursa also included getting all of these back out, which was a little bit time consuming. So that is my progress on Thursa. I would like her to come back out. We shall see where she gets in April. I saw that Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot finished Thursa recently, and her Thursa looks beautiful. So Sarah, I'm very jealous of that. I feel like I'm moving around a lot more today, so sorry. Okay, next up we have Midnight Watch by Blackbird Designs. Really sorry about the glare. Again, there's not a whole lot I could do about the lighting right now. I started stitching this last year, maybe the year before, and I got it out for March Madness, but it was one of those days where I had been in meetings for 8 hours, so if I'm being honest, I probably put in a total of 2 threads, something like that. Here is what it looks like. This is, I'm stitching this on 40 count Winter Woolens by Seraphim. I am using all of the called for threads, and if I could try to pinpoint what I did last time, I think I added part of the plant on the left side. I think I finished the outline of the cat, and I probably added a little bit to the border. That is Midnight Watch. I do want to, I've said this before, get this one finished for this fall, but I'm getting to the point with it where almost all of the remaining stitching is fill in for the cat, fill in for the moon, and border. So I definitely have to be in the right mood to do it. And then also I have not really felt like stitching fall yet. I often feel like stitching fall starting in the summer, so probably won't be too much longer. And this is in a bag I got from Etsy. Unfortunately, I can never remember the maker, and it's not on the bag. So if someone likes this bag a lot and is curious, let me know and I can look it up for you. Next whip that I have is in this bag from Harriet and Frankie, also on Etsy. And see if I can find the cover page. This is My Home in the Garden by Hello from Liz Matthews. This came out at Market a couple of years ago, and the model is stitched in Gloriana. I am using the DMC conversion. I saw Betsy Klager do it, and I just loved how the DMC looked. I thought that they were really pretty colors together. Here are the colors for it. And I am stitching My Home in the Garden on 40 count Marbled Bunny by XJew. Let's get my fabric ready here. It's upside down. Here is where I'm at. I think what I did here was bring the border down and do the big tree, the top of the smaller tree, those two upside down tulips. And I think I did all of the fireflies or whatever little insects we have flying around on that third band. So again, you're not seeing a ton of progress on these first few because there isn't. I only did one day of them in March Madness, and they are not projects that I returned to before the end of the month. All right, what do we have next? Okay, next is, this is a bag I made myself. Just toss this one in here because it's what I had available. This is Summer Refreshes by Summer House Stitchworks. And in February, this was my morning piece. I was trying to put in like a stitch every morning or so, and I got a little bit tired of it. The colors in this one, obviously, there's only 3, so it's pretty repetitive. Here's where I'm at thus far. I'm stitching this one on 36 count Colonial Parchment by Fabrics by Stephanie using the called for DMC. What I've done since you last saw this, I think actually kind of a lot because I was doing it in the morning, so maybe that's wrong. I think I just pulled across some of the bottom, the Summer Refreshes words, and a little bit of the border. Still got some hoop marks on that. I'm sure I'll bring this one out closer to the summer to get it finished. These are the 3 DMC. Very pretty. And that's that one. Next up we have another Stitchy Notions by Lisa bag. And what's in here is My Early Days by Plum Street Samplers. So I worked on this as part of March Madness and then again at a Stitchy meetup I went to in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and that was lovely. All the ladies that attend that meetup are so friendly. I'm planning on going again in April. Here's where I got on My Early Days. I'm learning that I really need one of those felted stitch boards that some people use to hold up their projects, because if I'm gonna film in front of this window, it will go straight through the fabric unless I maybe invest in one of those boards. But people who watch my videos seem to like seeing the barn and the view, so I'm not going to close the blinds on you. Here's my progress on My Early Days. I am stitching this on 40 count Pampas Grass by Color and Cotton, and I'm using the called for threads. What I got done here was toward the bottom of the house, just like a bunch of grass. I think I finished filling in some of the border, the white edges of those little flower buds. a lot of grass. I outlined a sheep, and when I was at that stitching meetup, I stitched just a bunch of grass. I will say I want this one done badly because I do have a frame for it. I found a frame in the as is section at my Michael's, but the grass is just really not feeling it lately. I think I'm going to continue to bring this one to like stitching meetups and things like that, so that when I am chatting, I can just get some of it done without really thinking about it. I'm actually having a friend over tomorrow, and she's not a cross stitcher so much as a knitter, but when we hang out, usually she'll do a craft, I'll do a craft, and we just catch up. So this might be good for that. My threads are quite messy, but these are the called for threads for my early days. Okay. Guys, I'm having the hardest time filming today. If this video seems super choppy, it's because it's a lot of clips, because I keep dropping things, showing charts, like the back of charts. Apologies. The next project you're going to see is in this bag. This is from Sheba Designs on Etsy. I love their bags. They have really cute ones in general, but I love this one because it's like the Wild West pattern with the cows and the tumbleweeds and cacti, a saloon, etc. I just thought that was fun. And what's in here is this Birds of a Feather Sally Spencer sampler. And I am stitching Sally on 40 count Assembleur by Color and Cotton. I had kind of a false start with this one where I was stitching it on 36 count Ren by Picture This Plus. And I did stitch this during March Madness for a day, and I think it did not, I don't think it won the day that it was up in a matchup, but I wanted to keep working on it. So after I just pieced out of March Madness, this is the first thing that I worked on, and I'm not halfway done, but I'm almost at the bottom of the first page. There's a hanging thread here. I believe underneath that flower, there's going to be a flower pot, and then that will be hitting the bottom of the first half. Then I'll bring it all the way across. I think this one is so fun. So I think since the last time you saw this in a video, I stitched from the K down. I've done quite a bit. And I'm stitching this with the called for overdyes. There's only 5 or 6 of them, but they're really pretty. I know Vicki Clayton has a silk conversion for this, and I did not get it prior to, or I did not know about it prior to getting these, so I'm using these for Sally Spencer. But FYI, if you purchase a copy of Sally Spencer on eBay, or you have it in your collection or whatnot, there is a silk conversion out there, and it looks beautiful. Okay. Those away. All right, my last whip, gotta reach for it, pardon my reach, is in this Stitching Oceans by Lisa bag, and it is Consider the Lilies. This is, I'm not going to give anything away by opening this because I have loved this chart very well, and it's falling apart. But Consider the Lilies, as you know, maybe, I don't know if you know, I'm trying to finish this in 2023, and so I've been working on it quite a bit this year. These are the threads I'm using. They are the called for overdyes. They are a mess, but I'm able to work with them. And I'm stitching this one on 40 count Vintage Straw Flower by Lakeside Linens. I don't know if my progress is going to fit on one page anymore. It's not, so I'm past the halfway point. Let me... Oh. Can you see it all? No. I'm not very good at this. What you can see is my progress though. So since the last time you saw this, what I had previously was the entire left half was done. and the moth at the top was done. So now I actually am going to fold it over so I can show you what I've worked on. I did pretty much this. So this flower pot, brought the border over, brought the border down a little bit, and filled in a bunch of little motifs. I still have a lot of fun working on this one, and I am the first to hear it. I'm toying with the idea of working only on Consider the Lilies in May, just to see how much I can get done, do like the opposite of mayhem. I think that if I work on it on Sundays in April and then work on it all of May or almost all of May, I could close the border, finish the words, and probably finish the top half. Maybe. But that's something that's been swirling around in my little pea brain. I'll probably get distracted by things that are in my closet, things that are in my whip basket, things that haven't been released yet. Speaking of things that haven't been released yet, one thing that I was really hoping was going to be released at market but wasn't, and I think that it's because it hasn't hit the 1-year exclusivity mark yet, is With That Needle and Thread, Brenda Gervais has a sampler called At Home. If I can find a picture of it, I'll put it here. It was an exclusive kit for a retreat. If that comes out in April or May, there's no promises that Consider the Lilies will get more than Sunday progress. Okay, those are my whips. Now, I did start 2 things. So, look at my little list here. The first thing that I started was my salt box stitch along. And so, I have it in a Stitchy Notions by Lisa bag. And here is the first set. These are the spring salt boxes. I'm starting this hashtag saltbox solstice sal with Caitlin from Cross Stitch Kate and Jessica from Sweetwater Stitcher. I started with the left hand house, the navy house, which is Weeks Dye Works Peacoat. Caitlin finished the first house. Jessica is pretty far on the first one as well, and I'm hoping I'll have a mini finish on this house maybe this weekend. So what am I stitching this on? It is on 40 count barley, again by Color and Cotton. And here's where I'm at. It's still on the Q-snap because I was working on it today. I have finished the house and the vines, started in on the grass, and I've done the left side border and some of the bottom. So I'm just working on bringing that across. I've been going back and forth between the grass and the border. The thing that I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, and I don't have to make a decision just yet because I probably won't work on the second house until maybe the end of April, is whether I want to, I'm definitely doing them 2 across by 4 down, but I'm trying to decide if I want to have all 8 white border boxes connected. And what I mean by that is there'd be 1 border of 3 and then immediately start the second house. Or if I want to move over, let's say 3 stitches from the white border and do another white box for the second house and then do it that way. So one way they'd look more like 8 minis stitched together, and one way it would look like 1 more cohesive stitch. I can't decide what I want to do. If you have an opinion, or if you're stitching this, tell me what you're doing or tell me what you think might look good. So this is the spring salt box number 1, and number 2 I'll try to do toward the end of April, and then theoretically in June should be starting the summer ones. I don't have the threads for summer, fall, winter yet. I figure I'll just get them as the seasons come up, but these are the threads for spring. The only change that I made is the white that's called for the border for everything is, I think, Color and Cotton Snowball, and I decided to just use DMC 3865 because I have a lot of it. I have like a double skein on here and I like the coverage of it. and I think it's coming out pretty well. I think my stitches are looking pretty neat, so I'm gonna keep going with it. I mean, I'm certainly not going to rip out all the border at this point, so I guess this is what I'm using. All right, last start is a very exciting one, very exciting one. Also in a Stitchy Notions by Lisa bag. Are you tired of me saying that yet? This is Blackbird Designs Birds of a Feather. I got this from Top Knot Stitcher along with another chart that I'll show you when I get to purchases. And I decided that since I had been waiting for such a long time to stitch this one, that I was going to treat myself. And to that end, I got, pull them out, I got the Vicki Clayton silks. Do not judge me for putting silks on floss tags. I just can't do the bobbins or the round, because they're still bobbins. Can't do it. So this is what I'm doing. And then I have the thread bed that matches the bag, and I'm putting all of my little extra pieces of silk in there so that they're not hanging out. And then when I store this, I've been storing the pile of thread inside the thread bed just to give them a little bit more protection. But truly, if you have not tried, hdfsilks.com is the website. I'll put it in the description. If you have not tried Vicki's silks, they are amazing. The blues are just gorgeous. They're so shiny, and it really shows in the stitching as well. So would you like me to actually show you the stitching? Cool. This is also on a Q-snap because I've been working on it relatively recently. I was able to finish, I think the entire left-hand border is now finished. With the bottom, you can see I got all the way across to the right side, working on the leaves at the bottom. I started that basket. The basket is pretty stitch dense. Each line is 30 plus stitches, and it changes color every line, so you definitely need to pay attention to what you're doing. And then I couldn't help it, I started one of the lollipop flowers, and I can't wait to get back to this one. I set it down for March 20th, which is spring solstice, which is when I started the salt box, and then we were babysitting, and then I came back, and I haven't really been stitching that much, so I'm really excited. I'm probably gonna pick this up as soon as that first spring salt box is finished. And some people have asked me about these. They're from Amazon. I can link them below if I remember, but I kind of like to try to match the color of the magnets to the colors in the project I'm working on. It's fun. Okay, that is all of my finishes, whips, starts. Talk about purchases a little bit. So I bought the Vicki Clayton silks for Birds of a Feather, which you just saw. From Top Knot Stitcher, I bought the Birds of a Feather chart, and then I also got this chart, which I think I might have mentioned when I was doing market picks. I can't remember. This is from Pansy Patch Quilts and Stitchery. This is Betsy's Spring Basket. This is a series of 4, so spring, summer, fall, winter. And I don't know, I really want to start this, but I also feel like I have enough to work on. So I don't know exactly when I'm going to start this. That being said, to me, it doesn't scream spring only. Like there are no rabbits or Easter sort of features on it. So I think even if I get to this in the summer, it'll still feel seasonally appropriate to me. And then maybe eventually I'll buy the other seasons as well. The next thing is, sorry for the crinkles, the Color and Cotton Fabric of the Month. Once again, you've probably already seen this on multiple videos because I film at the very end of the month, and this comes usually like 4 or 5 days after I film. But this is 40 count Renaissance, and it is a beautiful light neutral, tiny bit of modeling, just like a perfect sampler fabric. I've noticed with Color and Cotton that she tends to alternate between like a very sampler-esque neutral with kind of a pale neutral color. So in February, there was like a pinky base. One month there was more of a grayish blue base. And then intermittently will be these more true neutral tan, beige, cream type colors. I know I said probably 2 or 3 months ago that I was thinking about leaving the Color and Cotton Fabric by the Month Club, and I'm not going to. I'm not ready yet. So I'm gonna keep doing that. And I have a couple other things that I've ordered that just haven't come in yet. I got a project bag from Little Boat 88 on Etsy. I have heard, I think it's Situation Normal has talked about them, and I figured I would try a bag. They're in Canada, so it'll take a little while for it to get to me, and that's just fine. I have plenty of projects and project bags until I get that one. And then I also ordered some yarn, which I can talk a little bit more about in knitting, which I'll get to in a few minutes. So I think that's everything that I purchased this month. And in terms of my plans, I'm having a hard time. I think lately every time I work on something, I feel like I should be working on something else. And it's really stressing me out having, you know, I have a lot of projects and that's fine. That's not the part that stresses me out. It's more that I just feel pressure coming from myself to finish things or to do things that are of a season in the season and have them finished and displayed in the season. And it just feels like an unnecessary amount of pressure to put on myself for something that should just be fun and enjoyable. And so I'm just going to stitch what I want. What did work pretty well for me in January was doing Consider the Lilies on Sundays, and then I was usually doing 1 to 2 other projects during the week for 3 to 4 days, depending on what the project was. So at the end of a week, I had worked on Consider the Lilies and at least one other thing, and that felt pretty good to me. And I felt like at the end of January, I had gotten a lot done, but I also didn't feel like I had been stressed throughout the month about finishing things or starting things or, you know, keeping up with what other people were doing with stitch alongs. So I think that's what we're going to try for April. Who knows if it works? I think I'm just a person that puts pressure on myself no matter what I'm doing, so we'll try. And yeah. Oh, I know what I wanted to do next. I've noticed in other channels, I like when people show patterns that they have in their stash, like at home, that they're just thinking about. Maybe they'll start it, maybe they won't, but they're seasonally fun. So I pulled a bunch of spring, summer patterns that I thought I would show. The first one is from A Heart Remembers. Make sure my pile doesn't slide off the table. This is a book that Blackbird released, I think it was last year. I can't remember if it was at market or not. Maybe. It doesn't really matter. And what I want to do from this book is this one, Where My Heart Blooms. Is this so cute? I've seen a lot of people recently stitching, I think, Heart Remembers, which is the title piece, but I haven't really seen anyone working on this, and feels like it would be a nice fun piece for spring, summer. So that's one. Another one is, I picked this up at the World in Stitches when I was there at the end of January. This is Mojo Stitches Afternoon in the Garden. It kind of gives me Reflet de Soie vibes, if that makes sense. I love that floral wreath and the little cottage at the bottom. It's stitched all in overdyed or DMC, so something to think about. And also, as I go through these, if anyone has any of these charts and wants to start them, let me know. We'll talk. Here is Ink Circles After the Roses. I bought this one, I think, after Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch was working on it a couple summers ago. No, this was a gift from a very nice friend. And I think I'm looking at the thread list and I think I have almost all the threads for this. So I love that. I feel like if you did it quarter by quarter, it would probably be a little bit less monotonous in terms of the repeating motif. Here's one that I don't see this one that much, and I don't really know why, because I think it's so pretty. Plum Street Samplers, Adorn Your Heart. This came out at Market 2022, and I think it just got a little bit outshined by This Is the Day, which I know everyone loves. I think it's gorgeous. I don't personally have it, but I do have this one, and I just love that huge pink house and the checkerboard roof and the checkerboard grass and the bouquet and the goat. I just like it all. So that might happen soon. I have Live on Little. As much as I would love to start this one, I complain about stitching the grass on my early days all the time, so I don't know what makes me think that I'm going to feel differently about this water, but here it is. It's here for when I want it. Emily C. from Eclectic Possessions recharted the verse for this one with some lyrics, and she posted them on her Linktree, so I downloaded them, and I think that is what I'm going to use when I get to stitching this one. I felt like the lyrics that she chose and that she's using on Live on Little just resonated with me a little bit more. This I've shown once before. This is Carriage House Sampling's Garden Sampler. It looks extremely bright in this photo, but when you look at the DMC thread list, I don't think it would be quite this bright. I think this one would be really fun for a kitchen, and I think it would also look good in the same room as like My Home in the Garden or some of the other brighter projects that I'm working on. And it can be stitched in DMC or NPI. It's listed as needlepoint silks on here. I would likely do the DMC for this one. And then the last one I have was another recent purchase. Teresa Kogut, Come to the Garden. This is a big one. This would be one that I would consider starting if I finished Consider the Lilies. I'm acting like I'm going to finish Consider the Lilies in May. It's not true, but I would like to start this one. Maybe this will be my big piece after Consider the Lilies. Here we go. So pretty. So those are the charts that I went through my stash and that I'm thinking about that are top of mind. If I start something in April or May, it is likely to come from that pile. I also love a new chart that Yasmin's Made with Love on Instagram came out with for Market, around Market. I'll put a picture of it here. I think the line says, never underestimate the difference you make, or something to that effect. I love the little birds on this chart. I think the border is so pretty. So that's also been on my mind. I have not bought it yet. I do intend to buy it regardless of when I start it, but I don't have it yet. Okay. Flosstube shoutouts. I just realized today that I am very remiss in not talking about other stitchers that I've been watching on here. So I wanted to do a few shoutouts today. The first one that I'm going to do is, her name is Janet, and she is Stitched in Hand. She is from Massachusetts, so she's a fellow New England stitcher. She has a very similar style to me. She stitches like With Thy Needle and Thread, Blackbird, Hello from Liz Matthews, etc. She has really pretty finishes, lovely framing. She's lovely to watch and listen to. I think she started last fall, but she has a similar number of Flosstubes as I do. She took a little bit of a hiatus. Now she's back. Highly recommend you checking her out. And the second person, so these are going to get a little confusing. The first person is Stitched in Hand, Janet. The second person is In Hand Stitcher, and that's Liz from Pennsylvania. And Liz is also a new Flosstuber like myself, and she's so fast. So fast. I follow her progress on Instagram and I watch her Flosstube as well, and I can't believe her lovely progress on the different things she's working on. She started Every Opening Flower from With Thy Needle and Thread, and she's already done a full page, and I was hesitant about getting every opening flower right away just because I feel like I'm still working on things like Rejoice Evermore. I think I need to just get it because so lovely. The colors look even more beautiful when you see them stitched up. So if you're curious about what every opening flower looks like, go check out Liz's channel. She's also very mellow to listen to. I love listening to her videos, just drinking my coffee and stitching. And then the last person that I'll say today, her name is Jill. I keep looking over here, it's my notes. And she is iGoodia Stitcher. I believe she lives in or near Las Vegas. She is a newer Flosstuber as well. She has like a very a wide interest in different designers from what I can tell. So I've seen her do Long Dog, Plum Street. She's doing a stitch along for like a Doctor Who pattern right now. So she's got like a lot of different things going on. She had an awesome haul in her most recent video from Number 12 Stitch Co. So I feel like I probably need to try some of that fabric now. And yeah, I highly recommend you taking a look at her videos as well. And that's Jill iGoodia Stitcher. Those are my few shout outs. If there are other, I mean, I watch lots and lots of Flosstubes, new and like long-term Flosstubers. If there are others that you're really loving, I would love to know who they are in the comments, because once in a while I do run out of videos, believe it or not, and I would love to have a never-ending queue. Okay, that's it for the cross stitch. I'm going to move on to a very short knitting segment, and then some things I'm watching, listening, reading, and then we'll be done. So if you were only here for the cross stitch, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And if you are wanting to stay for the other things, you will see what I've been up to. So knitting wise, I'm still working on the same thing. It is the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I'll put the photo here. And I think last time we talked, I was having a crisis with it because I had messed up, and I'm a new knitter, so I'm not very good at ripping out knitting at this point. And I had just like left it in the bag for like a couple of weeks without touching it. I have returned to it. I did figure out my problem and fixed it. Before I show you the knitting, I'll show you another little piece of haul, which is my new knitting project bag. I asked on Instagram the other day if anyone had maker recommendations for knitting project bags, and I got a ton of responses. So thank you to anyone who shared their thoughts with me. This bag is made by the Scrappy Thread. She is on Etsy, and my understanding is that she does shop updates relatively frequently. This was on a shop update on a Sunday, and I just happened to get honestly really lucky that I found her when I did, because I opened Etsy and she had just opened a shop update. There were maybe 15 bags in it. I purchased this one and I sent the link to the shop to a friend, and when I went back to the shop, it was empty. So I do think her bags are relatively in demand, but if you want one, I recommend following her on Instagram. She posts the shop updates there. It is very high quality, lovely drawstrings. Close it here. The little tape measure handle is so cute, and on the inside there are pockets and everything. Okay, my actual knitting, my progress. This is where I'm at with my cowl. So the little marker at the bottom is where I was last time, and everything above it is what I've knit since then, which if you are a long-term established knitter, probably doesn't look like very much, but this is a sport weight yarn, so it's not a super fast knit, and I've been doing approximately 4 to 8 rows a day, depending on the time that I have and how tired I am. I love these spin cycle yarns. I don't know how well you can see them. Maybe I'll put a photo here. If I can take a good picture of the color work, you can see it, but it is super fun to knit. I'm more than halfway done. I think I have approximately 80 or 90 rows left, and then we will be wrapped up. So that is my only knitting project, but as I'm sure you're not surprised, I have started thinking about what my next project will be, and currently I'm thinking it's going to be the Amy Christoffers Pressed Flowers shawl. Put a picture here. I saw this on a different knitting podcast. Her name is Madison Montees, and if you like knitting podcasts, I definitely recommend watching her. She does beautiful knits. I just ordered some yarn for that shawl, which you will see in my April video. So I think that's all the stuff I've made and been working on. In terms of what I've been watching, I think I told you in February that I was reading. I read Station 11 while I was on vacation. And there is an HBO miniseries that is, I think it was on in 2021. So I started watching that, and I have not finished it yet, but I really like it so far. The changes that they've made from the book to the TV show are not bothering me. I think it really depends on, what the changes are that showrunners end up making from books to shows, that whether or not it will bother me, but I really like the show thus far. And then along the same vein, there's a new miniseries out for the book Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That is on Amazon Prime. So Station 11 is on HBO. Daisy Jones is on Amazon Prime. And I'm about 3 episodes into that so far. Really enjoying that as well. I have not read Daisy Jones in a couple years. It's been a while since I read it, so I honestly couldn't tell you the differences between the book and the show, but I'm really enjoying the show so far. It has Riley Keough in it, and she is Lisa Marie Presley's daughter. She's great as Daisy Jones, and then Sam Claflin, who I just know from the Hunger Games, is Billy Dunn, who's kind of the main male protagonist. So that's what I've been watching. Embarrassingly, I did not read a book in March. I know I'm sort of saying it over and over, but March was hectic and I was tired, and I sat down to put together my agenda for this today, and I realized I have not read a book in March. So I need to remedy that. I have a bunch of books on my shelf that I want to read. Also, for audiobooks, Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, just came in for me, so I'm planning on listening to that like while I stitch or while I knit. And I got a new book from a bookstore near me called Greenwood, which is about a Canadian family, like multi-generational story of their family and the timber industry in Canada. It's a novel. It's not true to life, but I'm looking forward to reading that as well. And last thing would just be what I've been listening to. So I've been giving podcast recommendations. If you like them or you've tried anything that I've suggested, let me know. This month I'll refer Ologies, which is a science podcast. So if you like anything related to the natural world, you will like this podcast. The host, her name is Allie Ward, and she's been doing the podcast for like 3 or 4 years now. But each week she interviews an ologist, which would be like a biologist, an environmental, like whatever ology she's talking about that week. The most recent one I listened to was domicology, which is the study of abandoned buildings and structures, which was fascinating. It's so interesting to think about buildings and structures that are no longer in use, why they went out of use, any like economic factors or societal factors that contributed to it, how we can more sustainably remove structures and make sure that we're thinking about this as we build for the future, etc. So definitely recommend Ologies with Allie Ward. I think that finally brings me to the end of today's recording. Like I said, somehow I never seem to get more smooth with my delivery of these, but hopefully people are enjoying regardless. I really appreciate you all being here and watching. I never thought that almost 5,000 people would want to listen to me talk about my stitching, given I don't really know anyone in my life who is super interested in talking about stitching, so I'm really glad you all are here. But yes, thank you for watching. I will be back in April. I'm toying with the idea of doing mini episodes every 2 weeks versus a monthly episode because I feel like the monthly episode just ends up being like a lot of pressure to put together this huge list of all these projects that I've started and finished, and I can't remember what I bought, and I can't remember what I've been watching or what I've been doing. So maybe it would be easier to just do it on a 2 week basis. Let me know if you want to watch something that's like 20 minutes long every couple of weeks, or if you'd rather wait till the end of the month. I feel like a lot of the people that I like to watch are monthly or 2 weeks, but I always wish that they would post more, but I understand why they can't. Anyway, let me know what you think about additional episodes being mini-sodes, I guess you could say. And with that, my barking dog says goodbye.